Hi, I'm Willpower. I'm one of the owners of Lab 11 in Birmingham. I think Lab 11 now opened in 2012. Started off as one room, and then obviously over the last 12 years, it's grown into like a complex of different spaces. So Lab 11 is actually the follow-up really to what was the Terminal. Terminal was the original venue in the Jewellery Quarter that was closed in 2009. And then I think following on from there, Dee, my business partner, was looking at other kind of warehouse spaces. I think found this one in around 2010, and we were already doing parties in Digbeth. That seemed to be the area that, you know, clubs and nightlife was generally kind of like moving towards, especially more like electronic music and more specialist kind of like clubbing. And then it kind of like developed from there. This room, you know, used to be an outdoor space, and then yeah, we took the buildings on next door and just kind of expanded it from there. So yeah, I mean, over the years, I've had like loads of artists, loads of different styles of music, generations, people such as Kano, Sonny Fodera, Marco Carola, Michael Bibby, EZ, Enzo Siragusa, Headex, Sammy Vergi, Roger Sanchez, Eric Murillo, the Martinez brothers. Yeah, loads, do you know what I mean? I think probably the most memorable one really was when we converted this room, which we're in now, which is the terrace, when we turned it into an actual like party space. This used to be like metal sheds. It was like the outdoor smoking area with a bar. In fact, the bar used to be behind us, took down the sides, opened it into like one bigger room, changed the layout around. And then we did a day and night party. I think it was like a glass in the day, followed by a Terminal on the night. Something mad, like 20 hours or something like that. We had like, I think it was like Sante, Sidney Charles, Darius Sorosin in the day. And then in the night went into like the Martinez brothers and Lauren Losung. So probably, you know, one of the most memorable because it really, you know, that was like signified a big change for the venue, like new space. And it was a great, great party. That started the ball rolling of the venue kind of like evolving into kind of a different style and doing different style of events. I think now more than ever, it's just like super important that you're focused on making what you do the best it can be. It's clearly obviously a tough time for a lot of hospitality. A lot of stuff out there which is saying people are spending less money or they're going out less, but I think people are just being a bit more selective about where they go. So I think you've got to do everything well. It's quite hard booking artists or getting certain artists in over the line just because sometimes it's not financially viable for an independent venue. I think when you've got like festival style or festival size events week in, week out across the UK, and then you've also got, you know, influence from like foreign markets, like US is becoming super popular again. The fees that some of the artists can earn are just like astronomical, which is great, you know what I mean, for them to be able to do that, but then also for us to try and push like local scenes forward and put these kind of artists and events on in independent venues. It's quite difficult just because the numbers don't stack up. It's not the case with everybody. You know, we have great relationships with a lot of artists, a lot of agents. You know, in some cases, we even look at it like where there's shared risk on things. But I think to bring some of the biggest names here or bring new names that aren't quite proven in the area, it can be difficult and challenging to get them in, you know, and get a deal together that everybody's happy with. It's quite important, I think, to try and work with the artists to put in things like sellout bonuses and kind of like scaled deal structures, which allows you, you know, to, if an event does well, for everyone to do well. Before we listed our events on Skiddle, we actually had our own ticket website and business. So we set up our own ticket website, invested quite a bit of money into it just to sell tickets for our own event. And then we started putting on our own events and a few other things, friends events, things like that. But predominantly it was just to sell our own tickets. I can't remember how or when I met Rob Casson. I say shout out to Rob. And Rob, you know, got me to list a few of the events on Skiddle. And just all of a sudden, over time, like bear in mind, we weren't ever promoting or pushing the Skiddle link. We were pushing our own link. We started selling more tickets on Skiddle than we actually did on our own website. So, you know, after we noticed that was becoming like a regular trend, we just decided, you know, just to go all in on it really. We started listing our events with Skiddle. And I mean that now, I can't remember what, you know, how long ago that was, but probably at least 10 years ago. And yeah, we never looked back since. You know, the support that we had from Skiddle was that was one of the key factors in why we decided to kind of get rid of our own business really, because we didn't have the customer support network. You know, we were just focused on running our own events, not running a ticket business. And also, you know, watching Skiddle grow over that period as well, like them introducing website updates, different analytics, just knowing that all that was taken care of meant that we could focus on promoting events, putting events together, and Skiddle focused on making sure the ticket process and that side of them was just, you know, taken care of. I think like the analytics side of being able to look back and compare previous events. I think the marketing side, Skiddle do the marketing really well. You know, you always feel supported, whether it be through the advertising, editorials. There's always somebody at the end of the phone if you have any queries. That's a big, big thing. Like I said before, you can just focus on putting the events on, promoting them, you know, and you know that all that other side is taken care of, and you do have that support network if you have any other questions or queries. Everything we do here is, you know, we try and run everything as a family. Just before this, you know, we're upstairs in the office. We're just putting ideas together for new events, different kind of like marketing campaigns, things like that. And then those things can get action straight away. They don't have to go through, you know, any other hierarchy. We try and kind of give everybody a bit of creative freedom in coming up with different ideas across the board, really. And then as a group, collectively, we just kind of make the decision of which, you know, which way to go and which way to run from there. It's pretty clear here, we're pretty raw, we're an independent venue, everything's stripped back. Lab 11, we don't even have a sign outside, so I don't think you can get more independent than that. It's kind of like embodying what we do. You know, for ages, we kind of refrained from having posters up. You know, now we keep posters out of like dance spaces. We've worked with Red Bull for ages. We were averse to putting fridges on bars and things like that in the past. That's what we're about. I think it's clear, and you know, you see that in the way we promote things and the way when you walk and look around the venue. I think this year especially, you're seeing more and more independence, especially with like artists. A lot of artists are putting on their own events, their own concepts, whether it be label parties or new ideas that they have. I think it's been great to see because there's, you know, a selection of handful of names that are kind of breaking through to what you class as like the top tier, and they are doing some kind of like new and interesting things. And clearly that, you know, they've used their own networks that they've built up through, you know, social media, whether it be, you know, talking about their music, you know, talking about how they do it, behind the scenes stuff, and that's kind of like gripped a lot of customers into wanting to support them. I think from a venue perspective, you know, you've got to do what you can to keep your venue interesting. People don't want to go to a space that they could go to any day of the week. People are traveling all around the country now to go to parties. So by keeping your spaces interesting, making sure the experiences are good for the customers, that's going to attract people to travel. I think it's hard, you know, I don't want to use the word recession, it's a bit of a weird one to use, but essentially there's a lot of talk where people are going out less, they haven't got the money to spend. People are being more selective about where they spend that money. From an independent, not just an independent venue, but across the board really. I think hospitality is sometimes overlooked, but that is one of the core drivers for bringing people into city centres, town centres. It's really important that we can try and support that. Things like keeping costs down to a minimum, making grants more accessible to independent venues. I think that's like a key factor. And I think also for councils to support new ideas, like look, we do street parties here, having those kind of partnerships and having where the authorities have some faith and support local business owners to do something that's different and just kind of like bring a more diverse culture and diverse offering into the area is only going to bring more people into the city. If you've got an idea and you want to do something, you've just got to go for it. You know, a lot of the time you see people that they're, you know, there's that whole, I can't do this or I can't do that. I think we've always had that mindset where we just go for it. And I think that's the one thing that I'd say to everybody else. I think, you know, go for it. If it's something that's coming through, find people that you want to work with, or whether it be venues, promoters, go to the parties, support the venues, get amongst it all, meet people. And, you know, if you've got that enthusiasm and you look like the kind of person who wants to try something, I think generally you've got a great chance of succeeding. Just go for it, really. We had our own ticket business. We closed it down to list our events with Skiddle. I don't think you can say any more than that. We've got a great partnership with Skiddle. We've got no interest to use anybody else. For us, they're the #1 ticket platform. So, you know, anything, especially in our sector, I think Skiddle's where you want to be listing your events.